Yeah, lately there's a stench coming from the water, and something about the color of the water just doesn't seem right.
Really? Okay, so that's how it is.
Yeah, like I was saying, the water is polluted.
What do you mean polluted? Yeah, it looks strange, but we could still bathe in it. So yeah, explain.
Well, Joe, water is essential for life, but certain parameters, when measured, determines the water quality.
Ah, right. You said when measured, but I'm not seeing so much as a ruler in your hand. And you're telling me the water is polluted? Do you even know what water pollution is?
Ruler? Jeez. Yeah, water pollution refers to changes in the physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of water. And sometimes this may cause harmful effects to humans or aquatic life. And we both can agree that the color of the water is off. And that's just from a visual observation.
Okay, I get that. And it also looks cloudy.
Yeah, that cloudiness has a direct link to turbidity, which is a measure of the clarity of the water or the degree to which water loses its transparency.
Yeah, well we in these parts just say the water cloudy.
Also, the oxygen which is dissolved in the water can be measured.
Wow, feel that breeze. I bet the water is also cool today.
Ding ding ding, temperature, another physical water parameter that can be measured.
So what about the chemical and biological parameters?
Biological, Joe. With chemical and biological parameters, you're actually measuring things like nutrients and pH.
Nutrients and pH?
Yeah, nutrients like nitrates, nitrites, and phosphates. pH is a measure of how acidic or basic the water is, with the range going from 0 to 14, with 7 being neutral. Take for example pure water, which has a pH of 7.
Oh, so wait, you're telling me now a peaceful little river mouth, all those parameters can be measured? Temperature, turbidity, dissolved oxygen, phosphates, nitrates, and pH?
Yep, it can all be measured, even fecal coliform.
Fecal coli, who?
Yeah, so fecal coliform is a bacteria, right, that lives in the intestines of warm-blooded animal, and this is commonly associated with human or animal waste. This one is a biological parameter.
What? But hold up, I get that temperature, turbidity, and dissolved oxygen are always part of the water, like in the water column. And well, they will have oxygen mixed in, and well, the cloudiness. But what about those other chemical and biological parameters you mentioned? How do they get into the water in the first place?
Well, Joe, they are point and non-point sources of pollution.
Meaning?
Point source pollution is like those activities where wastewater is routed directly into the receiving water body. Like higher up this river, for instance, through structures like outfalls, discharge pipes, and drains, where they can be easily identified, measured, and controlled.
Oh, point source. Got it.
A non-point source of pollution are from a broad group of human activities from which the pollutants have no obvious point of entry into the receiving environment. This happens when there is rainfall and the water moves over the land and into the ground. As the water flows, the runoff picks up and carries away pollutants, finally depositing them into ponds, rivers, wetlands, coastal waters, and underground waters.
So the pollutants entering the water are like fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides from agricultural lands and residential areas.
Correct.
That's how the fecal coliform gets into the water. I think I might be sick.
No worries, Joe. It's not so much that these things exist in the water, but what's troubling is the amount. That's why it's important to measure. Some of these parameters can be measured using a device called a wire-sized sun. Now the wire-sized sun has special probes when placed into the water to give you instant results.
So do you have a wire-sized sun?
Well, no, but my friends over at the EMA and IMA do. They could come test the water for us.
Okay, well I think I can wait till tomorrow to take a bit, yeah?
So for temperature, we have 27 degrees Celsius.
Paul, is that good or bad?
Well, Joe, let's think about it, right? Temperature controls the rate at which an organism's metabolic activities occur. Warmer water increases the metabolic activity, which leads to increased demand for oxygen, which leads to less dissolved oxygen in the water.
Ah, and fish need dissolved oxygen to survive. So the cooler it is, the easier it is for oxygen to dissolve in water.
Exactly.
Quite the bright minds we have there. But did you know that oxygen is measured by its chemical oxygen demand, COD? Essentially, it is a measure of how much oxygen is required to oxidize organic compounds in the wastewater into carbon dioxide and water.
Correct. Plus, there's also a 5-day biochemical oxygen demand test, where a sample is taken to the lab, where we measure the amount of dissolved oxygen that is required by aerobic organisms. Basically, what we're doing, we're measuring the amount of oxygen that is used by aquatic microorganisms to break down organic matter at a specific temperature, say 20 degrees Celsius, over a period of 5 days.
Oh, I want to work in an environmental lab.
Next parameter, turbidity, is 1500 NTU.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot. How does high turbidity affect anything?
Turbidity is the cloudiness of a liquid caused by suspended particles which reduce the light penetration through the water column, limiting the light available for photosynthesis. Turbidity can increase water temperature, and as the waters then become warmer, the suspended particles absorb more heat. These factors lead to a decrease in dissolved oxygen or lessens the ability of the water to hold oxygen necessary for aquatic life.
Okay, I see. Everything is linked, and here I was thinking the sediments can clog fish scales, reduce growth rate, decrease resistance to disease, and prevent egg and larval development.
Like you do some reading last night instead of bathing.
For nutrients, we had to change the probes. Nitrates, 50 ppm, and phosphates, 0.4 ppm.
Excess nutrients like nitrates and phosphates in your water can result in eutrophication, depleted oxygen, and fish kills.
Yeah, I really haven't noticed much fish lately. How do you test for fecal coliform?
We can use the membrane filter test. This method uses a fine porosity filter which can retain bacteria. The filter is placed in a Petri or culture dish with a growth enrichment media, M. enterococcus, and is incubated for 48 hours at 35 degrees Celsius. Individual bacteria cells which collect on the filter grow into dome-shaped colonies. The coliform bacteria have a colored sheen and are counted directly from the dish.
Joe, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Mr. Clement Pit Latrine!
Yes, a big cause for concern. Faulty septic systems and pit latrines are a major contributor to high coliform levels in water, especially after heavy rainfall.
Come to think of it, I only started getting ear infections after bathing in this river.
So yeah, Joe, you like to bathe in the river and now you're having second thoughts? But just think about all the plants and animals here that are affected by water pollution and don't have any other options. Either they survive or die. In fact, water pollution continues to be a problem for coral reefs, contribute to fish kills, and public health issues for us humans.
Bathing in water with high levels of bacteria. Yeah, didn't know about it. But what I gather from all this is, what we do on land greatly influences the quality of our waterways and coastal environment. Poor water quality ultimately means poor quality of life for you and me.